that were there. And you needed to get into the good journals to get tenure at the better universities. And so competition for publication at top-tier journals became exceptionally intense. And this is especially true in the social sciences, where our rejection rates at top journals are well over 90%. And even for mid-tier journals are over 80%. That's a lot of competition going on. And a lot of paper flying around through the mail back then. Now we've got submission systems. One of the things I like to do when I present this is to think about this editorial process from a kind of principle of realism. And it's fascinating to see how many academics often don't have that view. Those of us who have edited journals and who serve on many editorial boards tend to have a different view from people who often idealize the peer review process, thinking that somehow when their article gets accepted, it's because it was really good. Or perhaps when it got rejected, that it had failings. The other side of that. But in the real world, it's a human institution. And what goes into the peer review process is a function of editors, editorial boards, and the reviewers who are selected to review articles, and those who actually bother to do their reviews. And this is an ethical problem on many sides of it, and I want to try to talk about that in the course of this, because several things happened in the course of this Regnerus affair that led to a very suboptimal outcome from the peer review process. And there were ethical issues on both sides of it. And part of it starts with this burden of reviewing. It's hard to review articles. I reviewed 3 articles on the plane on the way to Fresno. Typical. For me, somebody at my point in my career who has a reputation as being a thorough, dedicated reviewer. I serve on 6 editorial boards now. I've edited a journal. I'm doing about 6 manuscripts a month for a variety of different journals. Not everybody does that. Which is part of the reason why I do 6 a month. Because the editors know Sherkat will do it. And he'll do a good job, I think, I guess. He'll do a job. He'll turn it in, it'll be on time. You know, page and a half long. Whereas other people don't do it. This is a problem. And, wait, there it was. I went backwards somehow. Refusal rates for reviewing manuscript have increased for a variety of different reasons. Part of the reason is because of this burden. People are getting so many requests to review articles, they're throwing up their hands and they're saying, I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry, I can't do the review. Some people are being socialized as graduate students and junior scholars to not review articles. I have heard this directly from scholars, top scholars, who tell their grad students at top programs, don't do a review unless it's for American Sociological Review. If you're not reviewing for ASR or AJS, don't do it. It's not worth your time. So refuse to do that. So some young people are being told that this is not part of their professional responsibility. Do we have an ethical responsibility to our professions to review manuscripts for our peers that are going to be important for whether or not they get to keep their jobs or not? One of the things that we have about professional ethics is what is our responsibility to our disciplines, to our fields and our subfields. And some people are shirking those responsibilities, and they're teaching others, their own students, to shirk those responsibilities as well. Some people become quite influential because they're known as good reviewers. And they're reviewing lots of manuscripts in their field. Believe me, people know that Sherkat's reviewing lots of manuscripts. And I could use that as kind of a gatekeeping, right? Manuscripts I like, things that do what I like, or things that I'm going to like and I'm going to write up as being good. Because those are my preferences. That's my professional opinion about many things. And in highly segmented fields, groups can control what's being published. This is especially true at particular journals. And all of you who are professors and such know that there are certain journals you know that you have a chance in, and there are others you know that you might as well not submit your work to them. And there's a reason for it. And the reason is about people. Actual people who are editors, editorial board members, and the people who they pick to review articles in your area. Real people, just like you, are a part of the scientific process, or the process of doing whatever your artistic contributions are, or other scholarly contributions. That's the way it works. And there are ethics involved. One of the things that most people don't know about, that I have unfortunately been intimately connected with throughout my entire career, is the growth of conservative scholarship in the United States. Most of it geared towards conservative Christian scholarship. I know about this because of the field in which I work. As being a sociologist of religion, I've been in the middle of the development of this since the beginning of my career. The loss of federal and state money for universities opened the floodgates for conservative foundations to develop a core of staunchly conservative faculty members. And they did this systematically, identifying young scholars when they're in college, directing them to workshops in the summer, which were paid for by a variety of different conservative foundations. Spend your summer at Calvin or Princeton or Virginia, where you'll have contact with other co-religionists, people who think like you, people who are on the faculty at those institutions, who might help you get into grad school. And they're not thinking about going to grad school at Baylor either. They're thinking about going to top programs to influence the culture. And this is a part of the mission of a variety of different conservative organizations. They're going to be a part of culture and they're going to change it. And they did this systematically from the ground up. We're going to get out of our shells. We're going to go to the top programs. We're going to get PhDs. We're going to publish. We're going to get tenure. We're going to be on editorial boards. If somebody asks us what to do, this is what they learn in these workshops, starting as undergrads and continuing through grad school. That what they're learning in this is just the opposite of what many of my esteemed colleagues were telling their graduate students. If someone asks you to review a manuscript, you say, "Thank you, ma'am." You do it on time or early, and you send it back to her. Nice, thorough review. And she's going to say, "Wow, that kid did it. I may use him again." They're all hymns, except for two. And that ingratiates you to these editors, because the editor, remember, is being bombarded with manuscripts at rates we never saw decades ago. And they have to process all that. They need to get reviewers. Thousands of contacts a year just to try to get your manuscripts reviewed so that you can get authors' decisions so that they can either make tenure or not. And this was encouraging for them. Here they have this framework where they're being socialized into being good disciplinary citizens, good professionals. And that matters, and it played a profound role in this incident. There's a reason why those people were reviewers who reviewed this article. It's because they were good reviewers. They were known to be good, reliable reviewers. I know because I used them as reviewers when I edited a journal. And so that matters. The other thing that happened was because of these private foundations, many of these grad students, as they came to top universities then, received enormous grants from foundations. I know conservative Christian scholars who received grants over $1 million before they even finished their PhDs. I've been a full professor for 10 years. I've never seen anything close to that amount of money. And that's important because it creates a playing field that's no longer level. If you're one of them, if you've been mentored by these top scholars and you've been given workshops in the summer, and they'll pay for you to go to Michigan and get extra statistics training. They'll pay for all of your conference travel. So while the rest of the graduate students are sleeping in the bathtubs at the hotels at the conference, 7 to a room, they can go anywhere they want. Their plane fare's covered, and they keep receipts so they can get reimbursed for their meals and such. Because somebody's going to pay for it. Whereas people who aren't hooked up with those networks, like everybody else, are scrambling with no money for graduate, even faculty don't have money for traveling for conferences and things like this. And don't have money for doing their own original research. The private foundations are also going to be influential because they're going to dovetail with what little public data collection efforts we have now, because they're so strapped at things like the General Social Survey that they'll sell questions to the Templeton Foundation or to various other organizations because they need another 250 grand to pull off the survey. And that's going to further privilege the research agendas of people who ideologically adhere to the mandates of those conservative foundations. And if you don't believe me about some of the issues of socialization, about reviewing manuscripts, just look at the Chronicle of Higher Education for Monday, where there's an essay from a prominent anthropologist saying, don't review articles from Elsevier or any of the other privately owned journals, which we've seen a monopolization of the publication industry over the last 3 decades as well, so that most of the journals are owned by Wiley Blackwell, Elsevier, and Taylor and Francis. And now we have organized movements telling scholars, don't cooperate with editors. If they ask you to review something, say no. Someone's going to say yes. Not going to be you, is it? Wonder what's going to happen. Who's going to get published under those conditions? These are still top-tier journals. Just because they changed ownership doesn't mean that social science research isn't still social science research. It's a top 5 journal in my field. And so you're going to refuse because you're protesting against the monopolization of the publishing industry. Nice protest. We already talked about that. The other thing that's going on, though, at the same time, is a horrible situation for somebody like me who's built my career doing essentially public opinion research, was the growth of private marketing firms and for-profit public opinion firms linked to both media outlets as well as political outlets and to marketing firms. One of the things that we've seen is that private firms are now dominating the survey research industry, and the standards of most of the surveys that you see are no longer scientific. They are completely unacceptable. No legitimate scientist should be reading what Andrew Gelman cooks up based on, his little tracker thing of, is Obama leading or is Romney leading? We're going to find out in November. Because all those surveys are garbage. I would have been failed from my undergraduate program if, in my responsibility as part of conducting the Tulsa survey, I had come up with a 14% response rate for my quota of interviews. Doug Eckberg would have given me an F I'd have never gone to grad school. Wouldn't have happened. Now, Pew is now openly admitting that they're